This is a podcast from comedianscomedian.com.
This is the Comedian's Comedian podcast. Hello and welcome to the show. I'm Stuart Goldsmith. Today I'm talking to Sugar Sammy, Montreal's biggest comedy export and the only guy in town during the Montreal Comedy Festival some weeks ago who was doing 2 gala shows. That's kind of unheard of and is a testament to just how big an act Sammy is. He is able to headline, I think, in 4 or 5 different languages, and we're about to have a really fascinating conversation with a really lovely, very warm guy who has a lot to teach us about quality control and about pruning one's online presence and interviewing the audience. And he's basically one of those self-made DIY comedians who's just been putting a lot of work in terms of quality control and improving, constantly refining the act. He's been doing that for a long time, and he is rightly reaping the benefits of doing so. So this, without further ado, is the very lovely Sugar Sammy. I saw the gala last night. Fantastic.
Oh, you saw it?
Yes.
Thanks, man.
It was huge.
Yeah, it was great.
It was huge. It's a huge room. Me and a Venezuelan comic called Ivan Aristigueta, we're both big comedy analysis nerds.
Oh, wow.
We were sat there going, the size of this room, the DJ beforehand, the T-shirt guy.
Yeah, yeah.
Is he your guy? Does
No,
he come with the venue?
he's the festival guy. The DJ's mine.
Okay.
The T-shirt guy and the warm-up guy is the festivals. They do that for every gala. But yeah, that was cool. It was my first time hosting a Just for Laughs TV gala. You know, and it was like a pretty cool experience, but it was one of those where I was like, it's not the same as just doing your show. You know? Yeah.
How's it different?
Well, the TV cameras, I think, intimidate the audience a little bit. So, you know, you could see that they're conscious of it sometimes. That's there, you know, especially
we're
when
quite well lit as an
very
audience.
well.
But you forget that for TV, they want to see us reacting.
Exactly.
So actually, we don't get the darkness you'd normally get.
Exactly. So, and they know that when you're going to do crowd work with them, they're like, oh, I might end up on national television if I say something stupid. So they freeze a little. So you could see that within the crowd work, you know, because I like doing it just to kind of give it a springboard for material. You know, I like doing that, you know, where it looks like it's seamlessly, my bits are seamlessly put into a conversation almost. Sure. I like that feel sometimes. So when you do crowd work, which I did in the second half of my set, because you do a set in the beginning, a set in the middle as the host, I was like, oh, I'll do some crowd work within all the material. And you could tell that compared to a conventional show, the audience was very conscious that, oh, if I say something stupid, this will end up on national television and a few million people might watch this. And
crowd work is something you're really known for, I think. Oh, not even to call it crowd work. I think sometimes that's a bit of a derided term, like just crowd work. But I've noticed something you do, I think, very shrewdly. I was trying to find footage of you online, and it's like Sugar Sammy's improv moments.
That's right.
And no actual material. You're not burning any material online. That's like, I looked at that and I went, this gentleman has really thought about this plan.
Yeah, I did. And I thought to myself, you know, I don't want to burn the material. I want to keep that for the shows. But this is a great way of putting out content, showing people what I'm good at, giving them the context of what I'm good at, so they know exactly what they're buying when they're coming to the show. They'll be like, okay, we're going to come and see a stand-up comic do material. Instead of, sometimes you'll see someone do, you know, sketches on YouTube or things like that. And it ends up being where the sketches are what people love and they don't end up loving the stand-up. So I'm like, I want it to stay pretty loyal to what I do in terms of what I represent online as well. But
it's also presumably, it's a smart move because you're not burning anything.
Exactly, yeah. So I'm putting out content without burning material, and it's content that even my creative time putting it together, I don't spend too much creative time putting it together because it creates itself on stage.
Yes.
So I'm not spending hours writing it, then filming it, then hiring a lighting guy and stuff like that. I've got a camera filming every show, and then we take the best. You film
every show?
Every single show.
It's something someone else told me. They said your partner sits in the audience and records the audience reaction.
Yes, what she does is she records the show, and then after the show, she interviews everybody that I've spoken to, the crowd work, the people I did crowd work with, or just audience members. How'd you like the show? And then they give their reactions at the end of when we edit the moments together. we'll put the moment, and then at the end we'll put the reaction from the victims in quotation marks.
Oh, I see. I thought that's really interesting. I thought maybe both things happen. I think what I was referring to was when you're trying out material, like ahead of the gala. You've got someone kind of gauging.
Oh, I've got that as well.
Response to that.
Yeah,
you're so methodical. This is great. Okay.
Yeah. My girlfriend records, and we record every single show audio-wise. When I'm working on material, not my shows. Like my full shows, we'll record them video. But every time I'm up at open mics or just doing sets to try to work on material, I'll record it, re-listen to it, and also she'll take notes and say, well, this worked better tonight because of this and this and this.
Okay.
And she kind of knows my stuff inside out now, and she's the first person I test stuff on. She's like the perfect comedian's wife, It's like she not only is great with helping me with, all of the work and all the stuff that goes with it. She's also a great person to test material on. She'll be honest. She'll tell me when it's crap. She'll be like, this is shit.
Yes.
Work on it.
Are you paying her on a freelance basis? So it has to be tax efficient.
Yeah, she does do that now full time for me. So she does work with me and tapes everything, edits everything together. So she's pretty much my right hand on the road, which is great.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. She's like my Linda McCartney.
Yeah, okay. So let's just bring out her own food range. Sugar Sammy sausages. Let's go back to last night, to the crowd work.
Yeah.
Are there particular, let's just, in fact, before we do that, let's just ground you for people in the UK or listening to this wherever who might not be familiar with you. You are, is it safe to say you're like the biggest Montreal comic? You're doing 2 galas. I don't know if anyone's done that before, have they?
This year, I think, I'm the only one doing it. Yeah, in Montreal, I could say, we could say that. Yeah, we could say that. And
this is a place where you can proudly say, I'm the biggest comic in Montreal.
I think I'm doing pretty well, in Montreal.
Okay.
But we do have a very healthy scene and a great scene. Good camaraderie here too. We have that as well. So,
but you're known from some of the comics that I spoke to, other Canadian comics who are friends of mine from the UK or from anywhere. You are known for being someone who kind of cracked audience engagement, and as in cultivating an audience. You cracked that early on. The impression I get is you're one of those guys who a long time ago went, email, hey, I should start keeping a mailing list.
Oh, right. Yeah. I guess so. Yeah.
We will absolutely talk about the creativity as well. But I think from what you've already said so far, you're one of those guys who is very methodical about the business of comedy and the business of audience cultivation.
For sure.
So is that, the impression I get is that within Montreal, if you started here and someone said to me, and I'm not going to tell you who any of these people are, it's nothing negative, but I'm going to preserve the anonymity of my sources.
No problem.
Someone said you were the guy who promoters would say to other comics, look at what Sugar Sammy's doing. Because he's bringing a crowd with him every time.
Yeah.
So talk to me about that and about how that started.
Well, I think I always saw it as the best way to be your own boss, because I wanted to be a stand-up comedian, but I didn't want to be waiting by the phone for somebody else to decide that it was time for me to do something or to be able to play anywhere, to decide how much I was gonna make at a show, I was always that guy who was like, there's a better way to do this than just waiting by the phone. So I always created my own following and built my own following and made sure that every single show counted. For me, it was always, if you do great on stage, they'll come back, because, a lot of guys are like, well, I've been promoting the hell out of it. They came to the first show. And then why didn't they come to the second show? I'm like, well, because they came to the first show and you weren't ready yet. Some guys will start too early. They'll be building their brand way too early compared to the talent. So I always was conscious enough that, I've been in the business 20 years, but I only started really promoting myself, I'd say 11 years ago, because I knew it was going to take time to get good. I didn't want to promote a bad product as well, so I thought that was important.
That's very smart. I think a lot of people who, with the level of access to the internet that everyone has now and the way that everything works online, you see comics who are in their first couple of years putting material out online, and I often see it and think, well, I don't watch it. I see it and I go, well, I'm not going to watch that because you're 2 years in. So
yeah, exactly.
Potentially there forever if someone else is.
Yeah, and then even for me, with the improv moments we were talking about it, I every couple of years I do a cleanup of them. We'll go over it and I'll go, let's get rid of the bottom 20%. You know, let's keep the best ones.
In terms of the topicality of the material or the number of downloads?
The quality.
Okay.
The quality, like stuff that I'm really proud of, because there's times where I'm like, oh, that was okay, but now I've done better. I've gotten even better at this than I was. So, you know, you can see yourself improving, you know. And for me, you know, I look back at old stuff that I've done, and I think this is a good sign as a writer or as a performer, or as an artist. You look back at old things you've done, and you go, man, that was shit. Well, how did I even put this out? You know, like, you know, there's stuff that you want to just get off of there as soon as possible. To me, I think I knew early on that I wasn't at a top level. You would see that, I would feel it right away when I'd watch, you know, other comedians that I loved, or when I'd be alongside great headliners opening for them, or when I'd come to the festival, because, you know, this is pretty much the all-star game of comedians. So you feel it, you feel the difference. And I was conscious of that. And I said, I'm not going to actively promote myself. I'm not going to go crazy with it until I have something that people will come to and watch and say, this was really good. And I can't wait to come back. It's not like, oh, it was okay. Yeah. Or it was, compared to other stuff that I've seen, it was just all right. I wanted it to stand up next to everybody else, you know?
So what was the first bit that you wrote that you felt like, oh, I'm starting to, this is me. This is taking the roof off and it's expressing.
I mean, I don't know if you ever get to that point. I think you always get better as a writer. Like, I think the stuff that I'm writing now makes me feel like, oh, okay, I've just hit a new level. Yeah. I'm able to write in a better way than I did. Like the stuff that I did last night at the gala, I felt like was way better than what I've done 10 years ago or 5 years ago, or even 3 years ago. And I was like, oh, this last year I've been a way better writer. And then, you know, you'll see someone else at the festival, you're like, ooh, yeah, I mean, this is... Yeah, I could do better than that,
This whole festival, for me, I think for a lot of acts, is you're simultaneously inspired and kind of crushed by, oh, God, everyone's so great. You know, it's really like an elite kind of...
Yeah, so you always think to yourself, oh, okay, I've achieved... You know, I'm so happy about the fact that I think I've jumped the level in the last year as a writer, and you go... oh, but I think I could still get better. And I tell my girlfriend that all the time. She's like, you're so hard on yourself. I'm like, I know I'm even better now than this. And I think I'm better at filtering out stuff, editing stuff out that I'm like, oh, I shouldn't put this out. I'm way better than this. I know I would have put this in my set 5 years ago, but I'm not. What I just wrote, this is crap.
Can you give us an example?
Oh, I don't know, but it happened recently, you know, where you just note things down and you go, no, I'm not doing this. I can't.
I'm gonna push you for an example.
I'm trying to think. I'm gonna look through my notes. I'm gonna look through my notes, and if I find something, I'll let you know. But you know, and there's times when I'll come up with something and I'll go, oh, this is a good topic. Let me put this. I mean, I can't even think of it. I mean, there's stuff that I'm putting in here that I'm like, oh, this is good These are good topics. I could write about this, but no, I have nothing in here. I probably didn't even put it in my notes because I said this sucks. I scrapped it out and I knew. But you know, there's stuff that I listen to now that I've done. I have a CD that's online and I want to get rid of.
That's the one on Spotify.
Down with the I'm like, oh man, I want to get rid of that. And I'm like,
and what is it about that makes
the whole thing? The whole thing.
That was the only stuff I could find.
Oh man, that was 2006.
Yeah, it's from a while ago.
And you know, you could see the audience going crazy and losing it.
They are undoubtedly going crazy.
Yeah, but I know that listening to that now, I'm like, I got to take this down because I know that audiences have seen me do better, and I know that I'm better than that now. But at the same time, I think it also, the fact that the date's on there might let people know that it was pretty good at the time, or maybe I'm just being hard on myself as well. But I think I'll replace it once I put my next CD out. You know? Yeah, I'll just replace it.
Last night at the gala, just think about that middle section. You had that wonderful joke about airplane mode.
Yeah,
which is great. So me and Ivan were sat there watching the teleprompter.
Yeah,
that was a really unusual thing. We saw you and I think Michael Mittermeier, who was just a fantastic comic from Germany. He was brilliant, perfect choice to open the show. He had his set list like written out longhand.
Yeah,
teleprompter.
Wow.
Did you do that as well? I can't remember.
I didn't do longhand. I just did.
It was just like sort of
keywords. Yeah.
Keywords.
Yeah, and I saw Sarah Millican do that too the night before because I went to see the gala the night before she was on there, and just to see how it unfolds, how the gala unfolds. I wanted to see what the dead spots were when the latecomers come in. I wanted to see the transitions, just to not be surprised by it when I was on stage. So I saw Sarah Millican do that. I'm like, that's efficient. That's pretty cool. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'll do that too. I was like, why not? Because they asked me, they said, would you like to put keywords? Because some comics do that. And I said, yeah, it looks like it's fun. And the lady who follows them, who scrolls them down, she's pretty good at following. Yes. Even though she doesn't know your material, she knows you're done with this and moves on.
So that airplane joke, which I do, are you happy to discuss that joke? I don't want to cause you to butcher it now in a non-gig environment. It's a lovely, clean premise of a joke. Me and Ivan was sat there going, clean as a whistle.
Well, it was the fact that, comedians, we talk about what we know and we travel a lot. So touring comedians talk about traveling. And I think for me, recently you notice that I think there's a lot of tension within the airline industry, and it comes out within the staff when you're on the planes and stuff. And they insist that you put your telephone in airplane mode, otherwise the airplane can crash. And I was like, who the hell believes that? Like, that's got to be the easiest way to try this. It's got to be the most disappointed terrorists in the world that tried that, and then I got up and did the act out for it. But that actually is a recent thing that happened to me, and the flight attendant was actually rude about it, and I was like, man, nothing's gonna happen to this plane, and if it does, you got to build new planes. Like your planes, your planes suck.
Every single person on here is pretending to put their phone on airplane mode.
Airplane mode, exactly. So that was it. Sorry, that was pretty much it.
So with that one joke, which I think is just a lovely clean. It's my friend would say it's a joke you can polish your boots with. Do you know what I mean? It's like bang, there we go. That's the perfect little unit.
Cool.
So with that, let's talk about do you kind of that idea occurs to you when you're on the plane? Do you write around it? Are you sitting down writing to unpack the ideas further, or is it just something you would have that idea and then go on stage at a smaller gig and play with?
I think a lot of it is I annoy the people around me first with it. So I'll have the idea, then I'll tell it to my girlfriend or some friends or my brother and I'll be like, what do you think of this? And then I'll say, I just came up with this idea. This happened to me. And then I'll start just kind of doing it. And then I do it over and over and over. And I talk about it over and over and over.
Off stage?
Off stage. Okay. To different people. And then I'll take it on stage and see if it works on stage. Okay. That's one way
so
it works.
So do you have I could almost imagine a hierarchy of friends. Like you'll try it on your girlfriend first. Is there anything to it? Okay, there's something to it. Yeah. Then I'll try it my brother.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And by the time you get to your 9th friend, he's like, oh, I'm his 9th friend. I get the good stuff. It's normally good by the time I get it.
Now that you bring it up, I don't do it consciously, but it does happen. So it does happen. I think I go through at least I think I have 5 or 6 people that I just kind of annoy when I'm not sure about an idea. But sometimes I'll come up with something and I'm pretty sure that it's good. And I'll try it out maybe once on my girlfriend, then bring it up on stage. One of those was when I talked about her Polish relatives yesterday, and her racist Polish uncle, who, freely throws out racism during dinner towards guests like me. He was like, it's rare to see Indian people working with their brains. Yeah. I heard you guys are made for hard labor. And then I was like, some people like to fight racism with kindness. I like to fight racism with racism. And then I wrote the whole bit about what I replied to him. And that just came because, I've been hanging out with my Polish girlfriend a lot, and you meet all these characters in her family. And then, that's one of those ideas that I had, and I just put it out there. I tried it on her. She said, I think that's a killer. And I was like, I think so too. You feel it instinctively. Yes. Brought it up on stage, cushioned it between 2 magic bits, and it worked. So.
But I love that. I love the idea. Yeah, stick it between 2 good bits.
Yeah.
Just get and try it.
Oh, you got to cushion it. You got to cushion it when it's new. You have to. Even if you feel like it's great, because there are times you'll write something right away that it's good. Right away. And there are times where you're not sure. You're very insecure about it. You'll try it, and after a few tries, you'll be able to get it. There are times where it'll take you literally a month I've had bits where I've stuck to them for a month, not had the punchline or the laugh, and then found it at the end of a month. And there are times where you have to actually say goodbye to some bits because, you know, you love them and you can feel like nobody in the audience thinks that's great.
Can you think of like a bit that you loved that you had to drop? You think of like a specific bit. I would love to like get into the nitty gritty of like a thing that you've. I mean, I could think there's bits I've got where I'm like so often every year I write a show and I'll go, maybe this is the show where that bit about skydiving is going to work.
Yeah, no, there's one bit I tried in England actually that I was like, and I've noticed that about England is, you know, when you come to North America, everybody is, and it's like you come to Montreal, to Canada, people mix very easily. In England, there's one thing that I noticed is like white people hang out with white people, black people hang out with black people, like socially, they'll work together. And Indians hang out with Indians. You know, from time to time, you'll see a white girl with a black guy, but that's not a good girl. So I did that bit. Wow. Yeah. So I was like, but I love that bit because it's like you're saying how, you know, in North America we mix way more and we're way more multicultural and we're a mosaic and we're able to mix. And in England you don't, and then you negate it right away. And I thought it was a fun bit, and I think I got a laugh twice, and then the rest of the time, in the UK, and then nothing else. So
because why? Because
I don't know. I think it's sensitive.
Uptight about race.
I think maybe it was that, and maybe it was like maybe there was that thing of we're not sure he can say that because he's not black. You know, maybe you know, maybe they're like, oh, can an Indian guy say something like that?
Yes,
but then. When you do that bit around people who are comedy nerds, they like it, you know. But that's not the majority of the audience. They're like, "Oh, that's funny." Oh, it's you know, it's
yes, because nerds will look through they'll just look at the components.
Exactly.
Go, oh, nice use of the components.
Exactly. And there's another one that I do, and I know that 20% of the audience likes, and I still keep it because that's for them. And I have one where I do bits about. I talk about homosexuality, and then I say, you know, some people think I'm gay because I dress well, and you see heaven, and you think, oh, he's gay. I'm like, I'm not gay. I tried it. No, I was like, as I said, I'm not gay. But how do you know you're not gay if you haven't tried being gay? Yeah. But you can't just try one gay guy because that could be a bad gay guy, and you don't want to base your experience on him. That could just be a defective gay dude. So the rule is you try 10. If you like 6, you're gay. I liked 4, 100% straight.
Yeah, okay. Okay, nice.
So you know, I love that joke. I would say 25% of the audience laughs. The other 25% you can say are like, is he or is he not? Did he actually do that? And so I address that, and that gets the laugh. Whereas I wish that the punchline would get the laugh. It's the afterthought. It's the tag that gets the laugh.
So this is Sammy. Before I tell you any more, I should just explain I'm recording this in an airport, in Dublin Airport, in fact, after a lovely weekend of gigs at the Laughter Lounge, which is fantastic. So thank you to the ComCom people who came out to see me there. Very kind of you. And really enjoyed that. But what it does mean, of course, is that I'm in an airport looking suspicious, having deliberately wandered around trying to find a bit of the airport that I can wander around in looking suspicious. So if at some point I am ejected by security or questioned and searched, then I will hopefully leave the recording device running so that you can enjoy that as well. So more from Sammy in just a second. I've got a wonderful email from a lady. Oh, actually, this person has, I have now had correspondence with this person, and it is unclear to me they have a non-gendered name. I'm only assuming they're a lady. This is a Fran or a Francis, but I won't give you their surname because I should preserve their anonymity. So I'd like to read you an email I received accompanying a very lovely, very generous donation, a one-off donation of the sort that you, of course, can make at comedianscomedian.com/donate if you're enjoying the show, as I hope you are. This is from a mystery donor who I have anonymised. The message was, I've been meaning to do this for bloody ages. I'm doing so now because I'm quite frankly slightly tipsy and was trying to find a place to sign up to the newsletter and got lost. But like I said, I've been meaning to do this for ages. Thank you so much for... And then the message ends, which is an absolutely delightful message and sentiment to receive, and also a very kind, very generous donation as well. If you too would like to support the podcast, perhaps when you're slightly tipsy, and I replied to this person sending them a link to James Acaster's material about being tipsy, which I highly recommend you seek out on the internet. But if you would like to get slightly tipsy and then make a donation with a cut-off, excitable message, then you're more than welcome. Comedianscomedian.com donate, and you can do a one-off donation of as much or as little as you like, or you can do, what do we used to say, the price of a bottle of wine? That seems fair. I'm pleased to say this tipsy donor gave me the price of about 4 bottles of wine, which is extremely kind. But whatever you'd spend on a decent bottle of wine for the retirement of a dear colleague. How's that? A posh bottle of wine. But from each, according to his or her means, you can do that in a one-off way, or you can do that with a recurring subscription payment of £1, £2, £5, or even £10 a month. And I think there are 2 people doing the tenner a month. You are very, very warm in my estimation. So all of that at comedianscomedian.com/donate. And other things I will tell you about. I'm going to do the t-shirt post sale. The pre-sale was so successful, and thank you to everyone who received your t-shirts, and apologies again to the 2 people who didn't. I am struggling to work out exactly which part of the process broke down, but I am going to. I will give these people some free t-shirts for their time, refunds and free teas, to apologise for putting up with my administrative faff. But other than those 2 small incidents, it was phenomenally successful, and we shifted something like 150 t-shirts, which is great. It really makes me feel like this burgeoning community is it's very, very exciting. So, if you would like to buy a t-shirt now at the slightly less discounted price, because it's no longer the pre-sale, then I'll be putting them on again in October, just for the month of October. So it'll close on the 1st of November. I'm not going to do a sort of rolling sale, it gets too faffy at my end, but it's another month when you can place your orders, and what I will do is close that sale. That will be it. They'll be gone then. You'll only be able to buy them from me in person at gigs and tour shows, if I have any left. So if you are desperate for the incredible Polly Becker design, the Thanks Man skeletal horse design, then throughout October you can register your orders, and then in November I will print them and make sure that they are in your hand for the 1st of December, so that you can give them as presents or wear them proudly during a lovely tipsy Christmas. So listen out for those. Those will go out from, I think, the whole of October. That makes sense. I've sort of worked out the timings, and the first week in October, I believe that's when I'm releasing the Reg D Hunter episode that you are going to absolutely love. Reg was admirably candid in that episode. Right from the word go, we really got into some shit. So I think you're gonna get a lot out of that. He was very giving. You remember, like the Terry Alderton episode of Legend, when someone is just prepared to get stuck into it and talk about something. So I think the Reg Hunter one is going to be up there with Tony Law, with Susan Calman, with Terry Alderton. I think you're going to find it a very memorable and very exciting episode. So listen out for that. 1st of October, and listen out as well for some news on some other projects that I shall chat to you about at the end of the show. Let's get back to Sugar Sammy. With someone in your position who is able to very confidently play to, I don't know what the capacity of that room last night was, 1,500, 2,000 something. I mean, it's
like 2,500, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, was it really? I was on the stool, so I couldn't see the size of the balconies. Yeah. But I suppose when you are needing in that performative position to please everyone, like you're kind of I don't mean this negatively, but you're a crowd-pleasing act. If you want to get to that level of playing to 2,500 people, is there room for nuance, and is that frustrating when your nuance doesn't come across in the way that you'd like it to? Yes, and you have to almost say, okay, I'm gonna put this joke in there, but it has to be between 2 killers, because this one's for me. This one's for me and probably a minority of the audience, and I want it in there, but it has to be between 2 of those magic killer ones, because I might lose the audience with that big an audience, especially when you're hosting. Mm-hmm. If you make one wrong move for 1 second too long, you might lose them, and that's a disservice to everybody you're introducing. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing you have to be conscious of is, you are as they say in England, the compere of the night. So you got to make sure that you keep that audience warm for every single act that comes out there. Yes. Yeah. Now, one of the things you excel at is that you do a lot of material, like well-observed material about the specifics of ethnicity. Like I speak 4, 5 languages.
4, yeah.
And you can headline in all 4?
All 4, yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
So English, French...
Hindi and Punjabi.
Yeah. You can headline in 4 languages.
Yeah, it's great. It's fun.
So talk to me about the difference between, or what differences there are, if there are any, about the nuance or the structure of your jokes in those. I've never met another comic who can close in 4 languages.
Right.
So you've got a pretty unique view of the way joke structure works differently. Is it all the same? Is it different?
Yeah, well, see, it's not only, I think it's not only a question of language, it's a question of culture. That's the thing too. It's like, it's a mix of both. So the adaptation has to be both, right? So with language, I keep my structure the same, meaning if I'm doing stand-up, I'm a stand-up comedian. I don't do sketch. I don't do characters. I don't do any of that stuff. So even when I go to France or when I go to India, it's going to stay stand-up, So the stand-up comedy will remain. Now, the key is, in English, I think it's the most efficient language for stand-up. And I'll tell you why. It's because you're required to make a smaller use of words to get to the punchline. Whereas in French, sometimes it takes longer to get to your destination in terms of language. So you have to figure out that shortcut in terms of the beat, because the laugh will be bigger if the premise is shorter, obviously.
Yes, that's a universal, get there quickly.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not that UK or English-speaking comedy fans are particularly needy.
Yeah.
Come on, get to the point.
Yeah.
But that's a global efficiency.
Yeah, exactly.
And so what is French, is the French language, why is it harder to get there so fast? Is it that the words are longer? I mean, what are we talking about?
There's just more words to express where you got to go. In English, you can express something sometimes in one word, whereas in French, that same thing that you want to express will take you 3 or 4 words.
Okay.
So then you got to figure out how to edit and get there quicker, or add more to your punchline, meaning add more tags, so to make it efficient. So that's the only thing. The materials and the spirit of it stays the same, meaning a lot of times I'll go into a place and I'll roast that audience. Like I'll talk about, when I go to France, I'll talk about the French and I'll give them my point of view and I'll roast them. And when I'm here in Quebec, I do that about Quebec culture. And when I go to the United States, I rip on the Americans. I don't like doing that while people aren't in the audience. I like doing it when they're there. Mostly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting, actually, because I heard you last night going, any French people in, American people in. And ordinarily, I think of that as a technique to make what you're talking about current. That's a really interesting idea. We need to make sure they're in so that we can talk about them without it seeming nasty.
Exactly. Or seeming like, because it's easy to talk about someone when they're not there, because they're not going to be there to go, is he accurate about what he's saying? I like it when I make fun of the French and they laugh, because they're like, that's so true, instead of, oh yeah, I guess it's true. We've heard that, Sure. You never want it to be a caricature. You always want, the people that you're roasting to think, oh wow, he really
got us.
He's got us. He did his research. He actually lived amongst some of us. We feel it. So I think that's important. I think for me, I think that's one of those things, is you have to identify that and you have to be right on about it, because the second you're not, you can lose your audience. And for me, in different languages, I think it's getting to the punchline as quick as possible, but also not losing the spirit of the material. And there are times when I'll write material that'll only work in France, because it's so French, it's so local, it's so about them, it'll only work in France. Or stuff that'll just work in Quebec. Like I did 2 bits last night that were just about us here in Quebec. Yes. Something about the movie titles, and the Saint Jean-Baptiste float, which was a parade that we had to celebrate Quebec, and they had black guys pushing all these white people on a float, and it looked like it looked like an old plantation scene.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, it was an accident. We didn't mean it to be that way. So I talked about that. And I talked about, you know, our video to promote our 375th anniversary of Montreal. But that stuff I can't take anywhere else.
Sure. So that, I mean, in that example, or those examples, it's kind of the text of what you're saying is culturally referent. That's tied to a particular place.
Yeah.
Are there any jokes that don't translate because of the nature of the joke, because of the like I believe I understand that Germans, for example, don't do wordplay. So even if you write a joke that's got wordplay in German, it doesn't impress Germans.
Oh, okay. I mean, I'm not aware of German comedy. I'm not there yet.
Absolutely. But I just wonder if there are similarities, or if that's analogous to the difference between.
I haven't noticed that in within the 4 languages that I work in. I feel like the themes are pretty universal. So if I talk about relationships, if I talk about racism, if I talk about traveling, if I talk about sports, they'll all get it. But it's just cultural references. Like if I talk about hockey, I think it'll pretty much kill in North America, ice hockey. Everywhere else, they'll be kind of like, isn't that the sport where, cricket, sure. I can't go deep into cricket unless it's only in India, but I can give people a general, or in England, I can give them a general overview of cricket in North America. And
in order to be a crowd pleaser to a huge number of people, do you need to keep up with what's going on in hockey and cricket? Now, do you need to do kind of almost social research to know what everyone else is talking about?
No, I never do active research. That's the thing. It's always I'll watch something, I'll hear something, and I'll note it down, or I'll see something, or something will happen to me, and I'll have to write it down. For me, I've never been good at writing when I've been forced to write, when I've said to myself, okay, let's do research today, pick up a paper, or look through Google News and see what's going on, and we'll write about that. It's always, oh my God, I got to write this down right away. It's got to be something that really pops out at me and interests me and that I'm passionate about or that I've lived through. And then I try to make it universal when it's to a large audience. But then I also have like that material that I like to do, which I know is, going to be a little more precise and a little more niche. And I just like to work on that as well. I think it's a great exercise, and sometimes I like throwing that into shows. I think it's fun to stretch your brain and do different kinds of rooms and different kinds of audiences as well.
Are there, when it comes to I'm sort of kind of fascinated by this idea of wanting to have nuance in some sections that maybe isn't appropriate for the size of room that you're playing. When you're working at your kind of level, are there particular things that you would like to be able to talk about on stage that you feel your hands are tied because the issue is either too complex or not easily digestible enough for a crowd?
I mean, I think every comedian goes through that a little, right? But I think my audience now, especially very recently, I've defined myself in such a way that they know that I'm gonna push limits, that I'm going to talk about things that are a little more taboo in society sometimes, especially, like now I've got that audience that follows me. They like me for that kind of stuff. So I'll know that. But I mean, in terms of going more particular, like I've never been interested in writing material about microbiology or anything like that. So that's not going to happen anyways.
But I mean, in terms of like, are you confined to broad strokes about travel or ethnicity?
No, I tend to go deeper, right? But I know that in a 10-minute set, sometimes you can't peel off all the layers you want to, but in an hour you can, So in an hour you could be like, okay, well, this is great, but let's go deeper. And they'll go with you and they'll give you that time, And, it's a different type of pace when you're doing a 10, 12-minute set, getting an audience into your pocket than when you're doing an hour and a half, you can take time. I mean, when I went to the States, I did this whole thing about hip hop and old school hip hop, how I like it, and talked about British music and I have this whole thing about pop culture and soul and R&B. So I talk about all of that, and you can see, even though sometimes the audience varies in terms of their age, my age range in terms of my demo that shows up can go anywhere from...
It's pretty huge.
It's pretty huge. Yeah. I've seen, anywhere from 7 to 87, I've seen that age gap, that age range, and I've been able to still talk about, all of these things that probably each one of these, you know, hip hop and soul R&B and British music apply to different demos within my audience, and everybody seems to laugh together because I think there's a trust thing too. Once you get them for the first 10, 15 minutes, they trust that there's going to be something great about this.
You are amazingly likable on stage. That's kind of one of your superpowers as a comedian.
Oh, cool. I don't know how to do that. I can't give you that. I can't give you the technical.
No, sure. But you're well, like, what's your appraisal of that? What do you think it is that they like about you so much?
I don't know. You know, that's something that I hear quite a bit. I'm like, oh yeah, you're very likable on stage, but I'm like, I don't know what that means. You know, I guess in real life, you know, people always say, you know, comedians are, you know, these sad, depressed people, and they've got, you know, these issues, and it's almost trendy and cool to be that guy, you know. But I've never been that guy. I've always had, and very conscious of making sure that I have a balanced life outside, and I think maybe that's
important.
Yeah, and right. I feel like maybe that's what transposes itself onto the stage a little bit, is like, you know, I have a great family that I love. I talk to my parents every day. I go hug my mom and dad almost every time I can and go see them and have dinner with them. And I have a great girlfriend, and I see my nephew and my brother and my sister. I have a very tight unit of people that, you know, I didn't come from a broken family. Everything's great, you know. So
why
I don't know.
Did you want to be a comedian? I think that's like normally though we associate those things, the broken home things, with someone's passionate desire to sacrifice their social life in order to travel hundreds of miles to get their point across to some strangers. Right. Why do you need to be on stage if you're happy?
I love the work. That's it. I'm one of those guys who just basically likes the work. I love writing and I love performing, and I like making people laugh. That's pretty much the basic reasons I do this, you know. Everything else, I think, to me, you know, all the rest that comes with it, the peripheral stuff, I don't even look at. It's there. You know, the financial security, all of that, fine. But the true reason is I just love writing, and I love being up there, and I love telling jokes, and I love making people laugh, and that's been there since I was a kid, and so that's pretty much it, you know. And
are there ever moments where you struggle with the sorts of things that a lot of comics struggle with? Do you have moments of, or have you had moments of kind of like the not necessarily the darker side, but, you know, like in a festival like this, there's a lot of people here you could be one could be jealous of.
Oh,
you know,
man.
There's a lot of competition. You know, you can't be having 100% absolute nailing at gigs when you have a tougher show or a bit that doesn't work. What's your, like, I suppose what I'm asking, we talk a bit about mental health on this podcast often, and I suppose I'm like, oh, Sammy seems to have pretty great software for dealing with stuff.
Right.
So what are some of the harder things? What are some of the things that you find tougher, and how do you cope with those?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I still have, you know, I still have the insecurity about the work. The thing is, you know, everything outside of work, I think I'm good at dealing with, and, you know, the business side of it, you know, my personal life, all of that. I think I always like keeping a balance. The work, the craft itself, if it doesn't drive you crazy, you're not doing it right. You know?
Great, right.
Okay.
Thank God, right?
Yeah. If it doesn't drive you crazy, you're not doing it right. It has to. You know, I think every week there are times where I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I'll have that. Like, well, I should quit. Do data entry. I've saved enough money. I'm just, you know, I've had a great career, and I'm going to go do that. And then,
it's kind of a relief to hear you say that, to hear someone in that position. Yeah. So what are the triggers for feeling like that? What do you think what's going on there?
Oh, a bad crowd, a bad show. A bad show is probably the classic. You know, a show not going as well as you thought is probably the biggest one. I mean, especially when, you know, I was working on stuff for the gala. You know, as soon as I'm one of those guys, as soon as this gala was confirmed verbally in October, you know, I wasn't going to wait till June to work on it. I started working on it the day I agreed to it. And I started thinking about it, visualizing, and okay, what kind of stuff am I going to do? It's an international gala. I know I want to do that. I know what kind of comedians I want on the gala. And so I want to do international material. I also want to do a little bit of local material to, you know, please my local audience, but also please myself. Make sure I show my local colors and my international colors. So I've got to have all of that in there. Started working on it right away, and it's been a crazy year. This is like the finish line is tonight, and then I have a month off. And I know the crazy guy that I am, I have a month off. In 2 weeks, I'm going to start itching to get back up there and getting back up on stage. Okay. So, but I've gone to all of these places to test out material, and you know, having it not work, you know, night after night, being frustrated about it, writing, rewriting. You know, they say writing is rewriting. You know, it's editing, re-editing, changing a comma, taking out a word, like just that process, just that crazy neurotic process that can drive a person nuts. But then you also got to go, okay, well, that's all right. Let me go have dinner with my girlfriend, and then I'll bother her about that.
Five minutes to chat about the weather, and okay, can we get down to business?
Yeah. What do you think about this bit is not working? So, and then I'll, you know, my coping is just working on it, and I think it drives me as well. I think that's one of those things. I think that feeling of not succeeding in terms of getting the material down is also a driving force to push me to get it. You know?
Let's just go a little bit deeper into that driving force, because that engine, I think, is that could be driven by ambition, or it could be driven by fear. Mm-hmm. It could. What is it with you that is like, if you don't nail the gala in the way that you want to, let's not talk about tonight. If you hadn't nailed last night's gala in the way that you wanted to, what would it mean to you? What's the, like, what is going on? What does drive you so much? There's love of the work, obviously, and there's a desire for financial freedom and, you know, for it to be a business success, I guess. Yeah,
but I mean, I think that's really background. That's really not.
So what's in the foreground? What's the?
I think it's also. I mean, sometimes it comes down to making sure that the craft is good, being at that professional level, you know, where you.
Yes, but I agree.
That's
but
there.
What's underneath that?
Underneath that is also making sure, you know, listen, the basics of it is you're in front of 2,500 people, and that kind of public failure can scare the hell out of you. Like, we've all bombed. And bombing in front of 50 people.
I've never bombed. No.
and bombing in front of 50 people is one thing. Bombing in front of 2,500 is a whole different thing. And I think for me, it's also, it's always come down to being a good writer, being a good performer, doing what I do, but doing it at the best level that I can, and always giving my best and getting better every day, trying to get better every single day. That's important. But also making sure that I have given that audience a great show. That's the key for me. I think it always comes down to great customer service. You know, if you look at it as a business point of view, you gotta, like I said, it's like that guy. I always think about that guy who knew 20 years ago that he wasn't ready to promote this amazing, put this amazing campaign together to tell people, come see this great show, because it wasn't ready. So, you know, I've done that for the last 6 months, is come see this gala. It's going to be phenomenal. Yeah. It better be. Yeah. You know, it better be, because that's what they came for. These people, they took time out of their day to, you know, spend money for a couple tickets, and it's not cheap. You know, parking, babysitter. That's their Friday nights. That's their Saturday night. They've trusted me with giving them a good time. You know, they've trusted me with that. So it's like, I don't want to break that trust. You know, I think that's there too. It's like, I don't want to disappoint these people who believe in me. I think that's important.
Don't want to disappoint them. Yeah. Okay. Is that so? But it does sound like, rather than being driven by, I mean, I've spoken to arena filling comics who are driven by fear, right? The fear of screwing up. Yeah. And that makes, I don't want to, like, this has to work. Yeah. And does that resonate with you? Yeah,
it's a mix, right? It's fear, it's ambition. It's also, you know, making sure you don't disappoint your audience, you know, satisfying other people. It's like, you know, that's what it is too. It's like promising a girl she's going to have great sex, taking her back home, and then passing out. You know, it's the equivalent of that. It's like, you brought her home. It's like, this is it, all of this talk, this whole day.
Because I suppose you talk a big game, right? The DJ at the beginning, the pumping. I mean, you're like the leather jacket.
Right.
You're presenting yourself as bang.
Right.
The name. Where'd you get the name from?
Oh, right. I got it from, I was in university. That name was given to me. And here's the thing is like, all that other stuff. I mean, the DJ's there to make sure that people are warm. Sure. And the leather jacket is my homage to Elvis' 68 comeback special.
Yeah, okay.
That was all in black, yeah.
So you're selling like bam, pow, Sugar Sammy, right? So it's almost, which comes first? Selling the big idea of I'm the superstar means that you have to fulfill it. That's like quite a good way to work. Promise big and then you have to deliver. Or is it that you're going to deliver big, so you might as well look great?
Oh, it's a combination. I think it depends. I think it's a little bit of both, but I think it's all the other stuff is presentation. But I don't think I would, presentation is what I work on last. I mean, I think if the material's not there, the core's not there, then the presentation just looks silly, doesn't it? Like, think about it. Yeah. Imagine you have this amazing DJ, this great light show, a leather jacket, you walk on with confidence and nothing. Imagine nothing after. It just looks ridiculous after. It's like, you ever watch go to those sports games, those home games, where there's a great. I'm sure you have that with Man U or Arsenal, or they have these big presentations before the game, and everybody comes out, these historic videos and the whole show, and then they come on, they lose 6-0, like. It's embarrassing at the end of the day. So all that comes in last. I think for me, the craft of it, the work ethic has to be there, and you have to love it. You have to love the hard parts. You have to love. It's like a relationship. You have to love it even when it's tough, and it's gonna be. And with that, it drives you crazy. But when you get through it, man, there's nothing more satisfying than coming up with material and having worked on it and having it just be great at the end of the day. When that happens, man, it feels so much more worth it to go through all of that crazy business before you get there. Be all that neuroses, all that anxiety, all that fear, and it becomes a driving force, and you use it. I was like, before I went on stage yesterday, there was obviously I got to kill it. But there was also, the part of me that was like, it's time to have fun too. Use it, use that anxiety and that energy and have fun out there. The material now, you trust it. Trust that it's good. You've tested it now a bunch of times. Most of it's going to work, tonight. So you got to trust that, and you can only trust it once you've done it so many times.
Before we wrap up, we're going to lose the room in 5 minutes or so. So there's some other stuff I want to talk to you about. One of the areas I found a little bit problematic. It's to do with your album that's on Spotify. So we've established already that's a long time ago, 2006. There is a routine where you're clearly ripping it, and you're doing crowd work. You're doing lots of crowd work on ethnicity. We touched on this earlier on. You've got a routine with there's some Japanese girls in the audience. And you've got a bit where you talk about having or wanting to have a Japanese girlfriend who's like incredibly driven, and the CEO wants to be the CEO of a company. And then the payoff of the routine is, I found quite difficult. Like the payoff of the routine is this kind of, because I don't remember exactly how you phrased it, but it's like you said, but actually all you wanted to say to her was sucky fucky $15, which is like A, horrific, and B, Vietnamese. Like what? And I remember, like I had two experiences listening to that. I was like, wow, like that's a bit much. And also, I sort of thought, wow, they're still laughing. Yeah. Like the women in that room are still laughing. Yeah. So just talk about that. I've got a couple of questions about that, but how do you react to that?
Well, like I said, that was 11 years ago, and you evolve as a comedian, and the audiences evolve as well. I don't think I would have written that today. I think I would have still done something gutsy, but not written that today. And I even forgot that I had that on there. So, I don't know. I feel like today there would be, first of all, the material would be way more complex than it was, just writing stuff about Trump and writing stuff about how, in America, decided not to elect a woman. You evolve as a person too. If you look at it, that was written from the perspective of, you know, a 27-year-old, a 26-year-old, you know, now I'm like, you know, 41. I mean, that was stuff that was written and I was doing for the last couple of years before we recorded that CD. And now I'm writing from a 41-year-old. So you mature as a writer, as a person.
Have you ever, though, with some of your riskier material, maybe edgier, racial material or ethnic material, do you feel, I mean, you definitely seem to occupy the position of someone who is, you know enough about lots of different ethnicities that you can get that. I'm sort of trying not to mention Russell Peters because I know you occupy a similar kind of positioning. But have you ever in kind of taking ownership of being able to make that joke to a Japanese girl or make a joke about black culture to a black audience member, have you ever either gone too far or been like the risk hasn't paid off and you've actually ended up saying something and someone in the audience has sort of looked at you like, I don't know if you really have ownership to say that.
Yeah, no, not recently. not recently.
But it's happened in the past.
I don't know if it's happened. I can't remember if it's happened, but I think with you know, with material, you evolve as a writer, and to me, I think you know, you got to try it, you got to risk it before you know whether it's good or not. You know, you got to take that risk. I mean, a lot of it you do it at open mics, you kind of feel it out before you bring it out there. But to me, I think because, like I said, I'm close to all of these cultures. I grew up in probably the most multicultural community in Canada, here in Montreal. I went to the most multicultural high school. I was able to have it be very precise. Like I said, it wasn't a caricature. It was always knowing someone else and then talking about them. Having said that, I think that bit today I wouldn't do just because I think it's too easy. The out was too easy. I would write it in a way where it would be different, and probably the material, the subject matter would be different. But, you know, that was from the perspective of a 26-year-old, 27-year-old. So, yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm sure it's like musicians who, you know, they look at their old songs and they're like, I'm a way better writer than that now. So that I can definitely acknowledge. But I don't think I would take any more risks with trying to see how far I can push. That I would do. Like, how far can I push with this stuff, even if it's something that may offend someone. Let's see how far I can take it, but there's got to be a reason for me to take it there. I think that one was a little bit just like a throwaway, I think.
Okay. And just to finally then, we've talked a lot about I've asked you a lot about your kind of superpowers as a comic, the charm, the intimate knowledge of the environment, you know, like the package, the work ethic. What are some of your some comic abilities that you feel you still have to learn, or the things that are out of your grasp, things you see other people doing and think, I wish I could nail that aspect of the.
Oh, right. I always feel like I can improve on everything I'm already doing. I think that I see myself wanting to do more of. I think the storytelling aspect. You see some of the guys who are really good storytellers. I think that's not my specialty. You know, it's like writing these long stories that, you know, the audience hangs on to till the end, till the payoff. I think for me, I get impatient sometimes when there's not that laugh. You know, I almost go, ooh, I'm going to lose them if I don't.
Yes.
Yeah, it looks like I'm getting too, I'm getting too preachy or something because I'm not getting the laugh. It's like, you know, because I always feel like as a comedian, you're a comedian first. And then if there's a message, it'll be there. It'll probably be there anyway because of what you're writing, because of your interests. But for me, I never thought the message should come before the jokes. You know, I feel like the jokes should come and the message will follow somehow. I feel like the audience appreciates that too. I feel like you as a comedian, you've got to have that down first. And sometimes you see the opposite with comedians, and that's the danger. But sometimes some comedians do it really well, and that's what I wish I could do, is that balance.
Yes, because in telling a story, there's kind of jeopardy for you as a comedian that they're not laughing. You're asking them to invest. It's almost like what is it that you want to be able to hold your nerve longer? Yeah.
Exactly. I think sometimes there's that, and there's also the fact that if I'm not getting the laugh, then this is going away from comedy, which is what they came for, you know? So I think that there's some comedians who I'm like, oh, I wish I could do that better than I do it, and I don't touch it, but a lot of guys can do that really well. Let me see what else. I just think improving every day. I mean, I never consciously think of, I got to do that. I always think I just got to get better and learn a new skill, or get better at my skills as much as I can, so that I can be, I always said, I always strive. I don't want to strive to be the most famous. I want to strive to be the best. So when you do that, even if you don't achieve it, you'll always get better, So I think that's always been my motto, is try to be the best. Go be the best, And that's all I've ever wanted, is being up there and people can tell. I've had some people say to me, you can tell when a comedian comes on stage within the first 30 seconds that he's got some years behind him, that he has experience. And I like that when people say, I could tell when you walked on, and as soon as you started talking, I knew you had experience. I mean, I like that, because then I feel like that took 20 years to develop. Yeah. And if someone feels it right away, it's like, I've done my job.
Final question, very quick, interpret it however you like. What would you have written on your comedy gravestone?
Oh my God. Sugar Sammy was the best. No.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks.
Cheers.
So that was Sammy. Thank you very much to him for coming on the show. Thanks for being so open and for getting stuck into the process as he did. Really good fun watching him live. And yes, some fascinating ideas there about how to sort of seize control of your online brand. Reminds me of the episode with Rob Delaney. That's back in the archive somewhere if you want to dig that out, where he talked about deleting previous tweets so that if you go to his Twitter page, the only things you see are things that have had hundreds and hundreds of retweets and likes and what have you. So he's constantly pruning and altering tweaking what's available online. So some interesting thoughts there. So is that everything? Yes, so support the show as you see fit at comedianscomedian.com/donate. Listen out for next week is going to be Sashir Zamata, also recorded at the Montreal Comedy Festival. Just an absolutely wonderful. I hope you all enjoyed the Lisa Traeger episode. I hope you've all downloaded and listened to that. It's the little run of Montreal podcast that I was doing. And I think Sashir has a similarly thrillingly fierce approach to feminism and to willpower and to doing exactly what she wants to do. So I found both of those ladies very inspirational to talk to. I'm sure you'll enjoy listening to that one next week. So that's everything for now. I'm going to chat to you for a little postamble if you fancy, after the noise of a horse. If not, I'll speak to you soon. That concludes the podcast. Bye for now. So this is quite fun. What I've been describing to #ThanksDarryl, as he kindly edits out for me as I've been trying to record this in a busy airport, is there are frequently people coming down the escalator and then reaching a set of stairs and some lifts that take them only back to where they came down the escalator from. So people have been coming around in loops in a very entertaining way as I've been stopping and starting and trying to record without disturbing them or them disturbing me. So listen, just a quickie this time. I had so much fun in Ireland. I appeared on Alison Spittle's podcast. She's a very funny Irish comedian. So you can find her podcast on the Head Stuff Network. I believe it's called The Alison Spittle Show. I don't think my episode's coming out till November, but it's very, very fascinating and fun to talk to her. She's definitely one to watch. Very, very funny comic. So it's been a really invigorating weekend of gigs here in Dublin, and I've really enjoyed myself. If you're in town, do stop by the Laughter Lounge. Very up for it audiences, really good fun. One aspect of it for me as an English person performing in Ireland is that, like, if I perform in Australia or New Zealand, for example, I'm automatically special. You get that whole kind of, it's like Superman on Earth. You've got a different set of expectations. You get to be foreign and exciting. Obviously, when an English person performs in Ireland, I get to be foreign and not necessarily a good thing. So there's a really fun moment at the beginning of each gig where I sort of have to say, let's all just adjust to the fact that I'm English and see where that goes each night. And over the 3 nights performing here, I had 3 very different reactions. But I also did write a really good joke about leprechauns that starts off looking like it's going to offend them and then really wins them over. So not the leprechauns themselves. So that was a very satisfying thing as well. Thank you to all the ComCom people that came out to see me in Dublin. I hope to return here in the spring of next year on tour, as I take Like I Mean It on tour. And don't you worry, I will keep you very much abreast of all of that information as and when it comes. So that is it for now. I'm going to have to try and stop recording because people are starting to run past me carrying a variety of things. There's obviously, I'm on the pathway that people are... There goes one. I'm on a pathway that people are now needing to run to in order to make their connection. So that will have to do for now. Thank you for listening. Sasheer Zamata next week. I think you're really going to enjoy that. And thanks to Daryl, to Dan Melrose, Asher T, and all of those other guys who have helped along the way to create the podcast. I used to thank them every week, and now I barely think of them. So thank you to you people who have done so much. Oh, and of course, Ben Lund-Conlon and Olivia Phipps, Emily Crosby, and Matt Hoss, who are doing some sterling work logging for me. So thanks to the team of loggers. And that'll do for now. I'll speak to you next week.